In selecting a book, I wanted one that was removed from my social location. So I found a book called Waking Up White by Debby Irving. She was a white woman raised outside of Boston. She is a racial justice educator who writes articles and does seminars and trainings and workshops at conferences for schools, churches, universities across the country. It is important to note that I am not the audience for this book. As she says, this book was written for white Americans to help them reconsider their ideas about race, racism, and their place in it. It is not a scholastic work. It is not for the academy. It's not written for the religious, but it's written to help white Americans who struggle with race as she does. She hopes that by hearing her stories that others will feel compelled to deal with their issues of discomfort and work through their issues of discomfort and guilt and frustration and anger when it comes to issues of race. She makes a very important distinction between race and prejudice, which I think we should talk about. Uh, Racism that she notes has three elements. The first being skin color symbolism, where we attach ideas of moral and intellectual competency to one's skin color. Secondly, she talks about favoritism, or the idea that one is better than the other. And third, she mentions power, the ability to make decisions and or to distribute goods to others. It's that third that is most important. As is pointed out to her, all racial groups have problems with other racial groups. The difference is that empowered, privileged white people can translate those feelings into policy, law, and practice. Throughout her book, she shows how those feelings have been translated and have been woven into the Constitution and into just about every system you can think of. Our political systems, economic systems, financial systems, banking, education, you name it, it's there. And it's invisible to the beneficiaries of it. She says of her own awakening process, and I quote, she says, breaking through the invisible veil of privilege, I felt like someone who had unfairly won a two-contested race. I see myself high-fiving the crowd as I crossed the finish line without realizing that the woman I just beat by 2 seconds had a 10-minute start delay and was wearing a 20-pound vest. End of quote. Her awakening was precipitated by a course that she took in college that made her reflect on the lessons that she had learned and question why she felt so uncomfortable with people of color and them with her. She realized that simply by virtue of her birth, she was privileged, and that even without the social economic advantages that she had her skin color gave her what she called an epidermal gold card that people of color did not have. She recognized that without her consent and even awareness, she was complicit in a racist social structure that benefited her, but also crippled her and made her ill prepared to fully participate in a diverse world. It is a fascinating book. One of the themes that kept repeating in my mind as I was reading was the concept of scarcity and how it works to shape our behaviors. We think that there's not enough resources to go around, so race is used to sort and rank who gets what. Now, she never uses the term herself, but she talks about the concept, and she talks about her last conversation with her father on his deathbed, where he says, I've not done enough. I haven't helped enough people. She recalled an incident from her childhood where her father anguished over the fact that he had made the decision not to support a Jewish colleague's application to join his WASP country club. She knew her father was a good and honorable man, but she realized, and she says, that his love for fellow human beings that he may have wanted to use his privilege to reach out to was far outweighed by his fear of losing his privilege if he did so. So we see in a very real way how the myth of scarcity can drive something like racism. The book is Waking Up White by Debby Irving.